Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Tom and I really appreciate everybody joining us for a few minutes to talk about candidate engagement. There's been a lot going on in the world, and especially how it's been affecting staffing. We originally planned to talk post-COVID, but unfortunately, COVID is still affecting all of us, both nationally and globally. So today, Tom and I are going to talk through what the last 6 months have been like, how we've been interacting with both our clients as well as our candidates, and hopefully give you guys a few tips on ways to grow your business and how to engage with those candidates. And I'm happy to introduce you all to Tom Becker. He's the Executive Vice President of Recruiting at the Judge Group. And the Judge Group has been a partner of Monsters for a number of years. We really appreciate that partnership.
Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
There's been a lot going on, obviously, since COVID. And as you can see, Tom and I are working from home. So tell me a little bit about how that transition has been.
Yeah, one of the things that we did when we think about innovation, what's very popular is disruptive innovation and sort of rethinking your business model, and that's, I think for us, while that's important through this, when there's so much external disruption being caused environmentally, that it's really enabled us to say, well, let's just go back to the absolute fundamentals and basics. And from that, using data-driven decisions has enabled us to do some really cool things. Like really early on, we just made sure every recruiter was on a call regularly. All the recruiting managers met regularly. And that enabled us to move our capacity around in ways that normally wouldn't work because there were more constraints, because one market might have different supply and demand, but enabled us to really act more like one bigger group of recruiters. And that was a big point for us. So that innovation was more of just necessity of getting us together. And quite frankly, people are a little more attentive when you're going through something that is traumatic, where people just listen, right? They listen more, but we wanted to provide them with that structure. And that structure seemed to really be helpful. Most of our teams had everyday, end of day updates, beginning of morning updates, which happens, but we made sure that it was happening. And then we used data in ways that I think that's where sort of the game changing occurred, where we really knew to the day who's hiring. We knew to the skill set, where are they? And that for us we're still innovating through it. I don't want to make it sound like we're done. That enabled us to go through that sort of traumatic, oh my gosh, we're all going to be in home. We have to buy toilet paper for the next 10 months or whatever. But that was really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our clients had an initial, how long is this going to last kind of reaction, and then really had to make some decisions on how to pivot the business. So just, from an engagement perspective, as you know, Monster created a lot of different data, and we were providing it to our candidates on a weekly basis, as well as our clients. So some of the things that we looked at were trends, where were there open jobs, where were there not? I know you probably remember with your team, we gave you some of the locations that were hiring, and some of it was obvious, like healthcare, areas that really needed help from the pandemic, but others we were a little bit surprised about. I don't know for sure that anybody ever expected there to be a temperature checker or a contact tracer, but I know that that's become, a part of all of our roles now.
Well, what popped out of that was also in the mortgage space. I mean, we were really able to stand up an entire new division for the Judge Group, and it's been truly incredible for us. And I think we saw that in the data. That was a title that started to really grow aggressively, and then we directed our sales force on it, and it made a big difference for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a combination of just what's been going on in the world between, candidates wanting to leave the major cities. The cost of living is lower, obviously, in other parts. So, the mortgage industry, that compiled with the interest rates being so low has really affected that. And a lot of the staffing firms have pivoted or paused automation during this time of COVID. And one of the things I was most impressed about with how the Judge Group handled this uncertain time is that you guys leaned heavily on automation. So I would love for you just to share a little bit about, at your comfort level, about, what you guys did, and then, we can further that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, Lenore, we saw that this was the time to really keep going on automation, especially around candidate engagement and candidate communications. And we use multiple different platforms, either for contractors or candidates. And we actually did use the Monster campaign as something that was really helpful to us, because we thought we needed something like this because there was a lot more candidates, like, for example, in this mortgage space, parts of IT, healthcare, which has just been an explosion of roles. And we thought we need to automate because we want our recruiters being authentic, being, genuine to candidates, but we want to make sure they're talking to the right candidates. And I think that's where automation really helps. I mean, if a recruiter is forced to be on the phone, because we want them on the phone, right? We want them to be authentic, we want them to be personal. But if they have to talk to 20 people and 4 are a great fit, that's where automation is incredibly helpful. And even campaigning. That was one of the things that we got a big benefit from, where we were able to use, like, for example, the Monster campaigns, where you send out a series of campaigns. It enabled us to say, well, if you don't hear from this person, reach out again in a week or in a month. And that just allowed our recruiters to be much more productive. So yeah, for us, we saw this as an opportunity to accelerate in this area, and it's actually paid off pretty well. It allows us to really pace the messaging, where the first message is different than the second and the third, and that just creates more of an authentic experience. I think that's where automation really helps, is not only with engagement, but attraction, right? So attracting the candidates is step one, and two, engaging them. If you use some of these tools, it's been really helpful. I think there's this often confusion between automation and lack of productivity. Was for us, if our recruiters are using the right tools, they're being more productive, which in recruiting, and especially in staffing, that's the name of the game, right? So we're able to put more interviews, we're able to get more people placed, and that's made a big difference. So engagement to us leads to better performance.
So Tom, I'm really glad that you said that. One of the things that we noticed was that it was perfect timing, perfect time for Monster to release our new Search UI, which is called SearchMonster. And a couple of the things that tool now does that our prior databases couldn't do, it allows recruiters to go in and drip campaign to candidates that otherwise you would normally have not been able to reach. It also allows us to send 5 and 10-day follow-ups. And then once you've made that warm connection, it allows you to text those candidates that agree to be texted. So it really is next generation on, engaging candidates, how they want to be engaged and where. So, we feel like that was a really important part of getting the right candidates to the judge group recruiters so that they could take action and pivot to the areas that you saw grow. Are you finding that more and more candidates are wanting you to text them as opposed to email or the phone?
Great question. They're wanting us to text at a certain time. So as a text intro, that's a very tricky thing to do. Mm-hmm. But for more tacit responsibilities like interview prep, did you get this? Did you receive our offer letter? It works really well. It's been very tricky with first communications, because if you get a text from someone and you don't know them, that can be very tricky. So we train our recruiters to do, call, text, email. So it's never just a blind text, because blind text on the first intro does not work really well. So text used in a very purposeful way has a really good impact. And for us, has seen even better response than anything email or leaving a voicemail.
So I know Tom is being humble, and that his team has done a phenomenal job beating the benchmarks in the industry. So just with the drip campaigns alone, 39% open rates, which is what the judge group was able to achieve, over the staffing industry average of 21%. And then, achieving a click rate, especially with the 5 and 10-day campaigns and follow-up messages, the click rate, approaching 9% versus an industry average of 2.9% is just so impactful. And I know I was honored to be asked to jump on a end of day conversation. And one of the recruiters talked about a number of submittals and how she had found 2 additional submittals that afternoon just by utilizing the tool. So I just really want to thank you. It was so fun for me to be a part of the team and get to see some of those that I haven't seen since the pandemic.
It's our pleasure. We've been a long-term partner, so thank you.
My favorite thing about being involved in the staffing industry is the time that I get to spend with my clients and really problem solving, sitting down, creating a strategy and trying to figure out, how we can put more people to work. So I don't think there's ever been a more appropriate time than during the pandemic. People's jobs are so important to their livelihood, to their health and their families. And it's just been so much fun for me to be a part of working on strategy with the judge group And, I really do feel like they're family. And, if you feel like you would like to have me help your team do strategy, please reach out to me. Tom and I are more than happy to, spend some time with your team directly and help you really figure out how to engage with those candidates in a more meaningful way.